for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So tonight at our meeting, we have a fair number of things that we need to consider due to the fact that this is the end of the fiscal year. So there's a number of items on your agenda that we routinely do after the budget for the next fiscal year is adopted. Because we were delayed with the budget being adopted, there's less time for us to get our work done because we have to get a lot of this done before the end of this month. Ordinarily, these things would be split and we'd probably be doing some in May and some in June. But here we are, the first meeting in June. So before we proceed, I'm going to take a little bit of time in terms of item number 3, in terms of the agenda. I just want to go over this in some detail with you because I think it will pay off as we proceed in tonight's meeting. So if you go to item 5, this is something that's a proclamation that we've been asked to have, and it's in your packets. It's to improve diversity in our town, and there's a new grassroots committee that is working very hard to improve relationships among the various different races and backgrounds and people, age-wise and gender-wise and so forth. So we're going to be talking about that proclamation. The monthly budget report, Tom will deliver. And the mill rate, as you know, is the next item we'll be discussing. That is not going to change for next fiscal year based on the vote. So that is 33.81. When you look at the resolution, you'll see what the mill rate would be if there were no state funding. So don't get confused when it says a 39 mill rate, because that is relative if you had no state funding. But due to state funding, the mill rate will remain the 33.81. So it's illustrative of what would be if you didn't have state funding.
And that's because the legislature and Senate haven't finished voting.
No, it's just that we always tell you in the budget what we have in terms of state funding. It's something that the state encourages towns to do so that when you're adopting a mill rate, you recognize that a lot of your revenue comes from the state. Now, some of the towns in Connecticut don't have much coming from the state. In Portland, it amounts to about, I think Tom and I were looking at the numbers, it's about 17% of our budget comes from state grants and funding. The next item is another matter per charter you have to do every year, and that's adopt the non-union administration pay plan. We always do that after the budget passes. We also, on number 10, adopt what's called other budgets, because as you know, within our general fund, we give transfers to items like youth services, parks and recreation, and so forth. Those budgets will be adopted tonight because we now know that those transfers have been approved by the voters. The next item, we have appointments to boards and commissions. I'm bringing this to you because it's a little unusual in that our building official issued a housing code and building code violation to a property owner on Airline Avenue. And he has appealed the building official's decision. So within our ordinances, we need to have an appeal board appointed. And the Housing Code Board of Appeals has to have the health director, which is Russell Malmed, and the fire marshal, which is Ray Sajak. And I have one volunteer, her name is Amanda Herzog, who's willing to serve as well. I have no volunteers for the Building Code Board of Appeals, So that's something we're going to briefly discuss and hope to get some folks the next time we meet. The next item, number 12, Michelle Sapaglia sent this to you ahead of time. Robert Shea and Tom Robinson are here to explain the use of non-recurring capital funds. These are funds that we have that we obtained by selling surplus equipment over several years. Some of it's Board of Education, and some of it is general fund items that have been sold. And there are items that Public Works and Tom will explain and why they're asking that we proceed. That would be your choice to send to a public hearing and your choice to send to a town meeting. And I've provided you in the packets with suggestions for those times and the notices for those events. Refunds of excess payment is self-explanatory. The executive session on collective bargaining, Joe McQuaid, our labor attorney, will be here to explain. We're going to be discussing the Municipal Employees Union I think it's international, Clerical Supervisory Union. We have a tentative agreement with them. The union has voted affirmatively. So Joe will be here to discuss an executive session. There'll be a vote on that. Jim Tripp will be recusing himself from items 16 and 17. Down below, I'm going to be asking, before we do the refunds, I was asked by staff that we add 2 items. Again, these are end of the year matters that I did not want to bring up before the budget settled because we had other business. Number 13 is a contract agreement. Bob Shea has been working on this actually all year for fire company number 2. Within the bond that we passed in 2016, there were dollars for our town buildings. One project is to replace the roof at company 2. So Bob has worked with an architect to come up with the specifications. He's put it out to bid, and he has come up with the low bid being Imperial Company that meets all of the requirements of our engineer and architect. So he'll be talking about that tonight. That is an addition to the agenda. The other addition would be authorization for a supplemental appropriation for police private duty. This is something that we don't do very often, and I'll explain why. This fiscal year, the Portland Police have had many, many private duty jobs, both in our town at Spring Street and also a lot of jobs in the city of Middletown, because Middletown cannot staff all of the private duty jobs. They go to other municipalities to assist. We, the town of Portland, charge them a fee that exceeds the cost associated with the individual officer. So there is an additional fee that we obtain, and Tom, with consultation to our auditors, was told and is telling us that we need to take this accounting step, if you will, so that there'll be a supplemental appropriation to the expense and the revenue. Correct, Tom? Or is it just the expense?
Supplemental appropriation to expense, which is funded by increasing estimate.
But are we changing? It's a supplemental appropriation only for the expense piece, not the revenue piece, correct?
It will both increase the budget, increase in the estimate, and increase in the revenue.
So it is both. Okay, thank you. So you'll see there's a suggested resolution for that in your packet as well. So as you can see, there's a lot of things that we're required to do per charter, and there are some additional items that we need to complete at this meeting. So with that, I would ask for acceptance of the agenda as amended with the addition of items 13 and 14, and then the rest of the numbers changed, 15, 16, and so forth. And I gave you a template for that. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Jim. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The next item is approval of minutes for the regularly scheduled meeting of May 15, 2019. Is there a motion to approve?
I
Yes.
have a question on the minutes.
Sure, go right ahead.
Should you have the motion first, or?
You can ask it now, and then we'll have
Okay.
the motion for the amendment.
On bottom of page 2 and then over to the top of page 3, I'm quoted, actually it's on the top of page 3. It's, in the minutes it says, maybe we will have to look outside the box in the future to have a good education system and still keep up our facilities. And I'm pretty certain I said something to the effect, maybe we will have to look outside the box in the future with regard to the number of our facilities and still maintain a good education system.
Okay. Laura, did you get that? Could you say it again, Rick?
Okay.
The page is page
Page 3,
3?
the very top line sentence. Maybe we will have to look outside the box in the future with regard to the number of our facilities and still maintain a good educational system or education system. I can, you want me to just
Yeah, if you
clear
could
it up
give
with her
those.
after? Or,
Yeah, that's fine, whatever you choose, that'd be fine.
okay.
Yeah, we were at that meeting, I do remember you making that
Something to that
statement.
effect.
Yeah, I believe what you just said is what you said. I remember
Okay.
that, yeah. So with the amended minutes, do we have a motion to approve the amended minutes?
So move.
What do you want,
I thought when we,
Bob? No,
close,
excuse me.
Ben, I thought when we do the amended minutes, it just goes into the next minutes. I thought once they're written, you're not supposed to amend them, but they can be then, you can say you want to amend them, but the amendment goes into the next set of minutes, I thought, isn't it? That's
Well,
how we did it on the ZBA. I
What
don't know
we're
if that's
saying
here.
is the minutes as presented need to be amended. We're not going to approve the minutes that were presented to us. We are approving minutes with a change.
Right, but I think the change goes into on the ZBA,
It'll
I
go
swear
in, Laura, you want to explain that for us?
we would,
So the change is noted in the minutes
Of this meeting.
Yes.
You vote on the amended
yes,
minutes,
yes.
and then
But they find the
Yeah.
amendment in tonight's minutes. They don't find the amendment in the other one. It just says amended, and then I believe the note is put into the, I thought that's the way it worked, but I could be wrong.
the way I know it's because I work for other boards, is that the official minutes of the meeting, wherever they are posted, will have a notation at the bottom saying these
Amendment.
minutes have been amended
Yes,
and the date that they were approved.
yes,
So
and
tonight's the date they're approved,
yes.
and they're amended with corrections, changes, deletions.
But the correction language should go into tonight's discussion right now, in your minutes right now, showing what was amended. I believe that's.
Yes.
Okay.
The only thing that Rick is doing is providing the
Okay.
verbiage for Laura.
Because
She,
I didn't take those minutes, so I
Yes.
don't have a copy of them.
Okay.
So he's gonna give me
I'm just going to give you this after.
that's fine.
so I think Rick is making a motion to approve the minutes of May 15 with the following amendment on page 3, which he read previously. Is that your
Yes.
motion?
Yes, that's my motion.
Is there a second?
So moved.
Seconded by Ben. Further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Thank you, Rick. Okay, communications and correspondence. There is a proclamation that you have in front of you. This was something, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, that had been brought to my office. Caroline Murray and many others have formed a diversity awareness group. And Juneteenth is historically called Independence Day or Freedom Day. And it joins the words June and 19th and commemorates June 19, 1865, announcement of the abolition of slavery throughout the former Confederate States of America, and has been celebrated by the African American community for over 150 years. And whereas Juneteenth today celebrates African American freedom and achievement with the mission to promote and cultivate knowledge and appreciation of African American history and culture while encouraging continuous self-development and respect for all cultures. And whereas the first Juneteenth celebration in the town of Portland will take place at Portland's Riverfront Park on June 19, 2019, of which you're all invited. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Susan Bransfield, First Selectwoman, proclaim June 19, 2019 as Juneteenth Day in the town of Portland, and we urge all citizens to become more aware of the significance of this celebration in African American history and the heritage of our nation, the state of Connecticut, and the town of Portland. And if there would be a motion to endorse this proclamation.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Unfortunately, you will likely be at a selectmen's meeting that night and unable to go to that.
But I think it starts early.
5 o'clock.
Yeah.
If you can't attend.
I think it starts at 5 or 5:30 is the plan. So.
Okay, so we'll move on to public comment. The monthly budget report, Tom stepped out for a minute, so we'll come back to that. And we'll move on to number 8, adoption of the mill rate for 2019-2020 fiscal year. Whereas the 2019-2020 budget for the town of Portland estimates that $4,489,063 will be received from the state of Connecticut, and without this, the mill rate would be 39.31 mills. Now therefore be it resolved that the mill rate for the fiscal year 2019-2020 be and is hereby set at 33.81 mills. The mill rate remains the same as what we have for the current fiscal year. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make it.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Great turnout.
Yes, good point. 20.4%, I believe. So we thank everyone who participated. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The next item is the non-union administrative pay plan for fiscal year 2019-2020. This pay plan is for part-time employees, specialists, seasonal employees, and administrative, professional, executive, and elected officials as outlined on the attached, and we're asking that it be adopted. This is all the non-union positions within the town, and the charter requires that we pass this after the budget is passed, which happened on the 29th of May. Is there a motion to approve?
I'm not going to make the motion. I'll just say it's. I don't think I have a conflict. My kids do work for the Park and Rec program, but obviously there's no changes in the pay rate there at the bottom of that scale. But I at least wanted to put that on the record that that is the case.
Thank you.
So these are the same rates. There's no increase in these rates.
Hold on.
I know
there
that
is. Hold on.
council one is still 1010, which is minimum. So
Yeah, but now isn't minimum changing?
with state rules it will be, but
Not
I don't know when
until
that is.
October, Rick. Counselor 1 currently is 1010.
Yep.
Counselor 2 is currently
1109.
1082.
Okay.
Counselor 3 is 1176. So these have increased, I think, 2.5%.
Is there a change on one of them?
Yes.
Okay. Then I'll
Yes.
just recuse myself on voting for this because I believe that my oldest may be a counselor too. so I don't wanna
Okay.
have any.
My salary is on here, it is not changing. All the others are going up about 2.5%.
So let me ask you this, when the state minimum changes,
This will come back to you. And you'll have to adopt perhaps a new
Can we just amend,
one.
Susan, can we put an amendment in that so it doesn't have to go back to a vote to meet the state minimum requirements?
I don't really know what they'll be, Ben, because the counselor one will
No,
go,
I'm saying,
up.
say we have one, so it would have to meet the state minimum if we add a sentence. Must meet the state, we have to meet the state
you
minimum.
do, but technically you should approve, because there's not a range here, Ben. Some of them have ranges, but
The minimum.
that, the minimum,
Yeah, and that would be, you want to, re-adopt it when the minimum, so we can review it and determine if we need to increase other rates based on the change in the minimum, so that, yeah, it should be a simple, reallocation.
Okay,
But sometimes the other rates change if, if the base rate changes. You
yes,
can't-
I get it.
That's within the 50 cents, you can't get a little higher on the other people.
Counselor one's gonna jump counselor two,
exactly.
so, so you're gonna make
Exactly.
adjustments.
And we'll have to determine how that will work. And I would want your approval for that.
um,
Like you said, allocate it. I think that is the minimum, we've done in the past.
I like the answer, thank you.
Susan,
Rick,
what's the,
yep.
on the professional rates at the top, what's the current rate, say, of the assistant technology coordinator?
The current rate, I can tell you, is $24.30.
So it's going down 30 cents?
No, the minimum. So if that person that's in the position,
Oh.
the way we did it last
Okay.
year was we just put a rate. But I asked that there be a range this year because kind of what Ben was saying, when you change it, or if someone were to resign and we hire someone new, I don't want to hire them at the same rate that
Right.
the other person.
If they don't, especially if they don't have the
The
experience.
experience. So I asked that we prepare this with a range, because people do resign and new people come in, but the current rate for that position and that person in the job is $24.30 an hour, and that will likely go up 2.5%. But that is the discretion of my office.
I see.
But this would be the minimum that that position would make. And the same for the other professional, part-time, hourly positions. Now, you'll remember in our budget, the assistant technology coordinator is 40 hours a week. The professional, part-time, hourly positions, we changed the development planner, that's the position that Mary's in, and the land use administrator that Ashley's in. The fringe benefit administrator is Roy Lynn. They each work 30 hours. Now, that is considered by our personnel manual to be quote-unquote part-time. It's regular part-time. So that's why it's listed this way in the pay plan. But they are fully benefited positions. So they receive health insurance, life insurance, and other payments, vacation and sick leave. The hourly part-time positions, such as the board clerks, clerk position, drivers for the van, substitute for the librarian, temporary assistant for the town clerk, and the zoning enforcement officer, those are either temporary or part-time, under 30 hours a week. And then the town tech and the park and rec and the youth services, those are seasonal positions.
Susan, I
So-
think I asked this last time.
Sure.
When we put ranges on, other than a uniform increase across the board, whatever it's gonna be, are there any other changes that are gonna be occurring? Because now it's a range that I wouldn't have the ability to know. So, other than, let's use the 2.5% that you did earlier.
Yep.
Other than the 2.5% increase, and that's a made-up number, is there any other increases that would be occurring?
Not that I'm recalling, other than you will know that based in the budget, and all these salaries were in the budget that you approved, and they were at whatever the current person is making, it was 2.5% increase. But the youth services administrator, she receives a stipend for additional work at the senior center. So the senior center administrator and the youth services administrator, those functions are performed by one person. So there's extra money because there's extra work that she's doing.
And I
But you're,
think we talked about
yeah,
that before.
we did. That's the only one, Ben, that would be,
That's, I just like to say it
Different.
on the record, just to make sure, because when there is these ranges, I like, just to make sure we're all clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Susan, does,
but if I could just say one other
Okay.
thing before I leave Ben's question,
Sure.
Rick. If there's a resignation,
You are-
then,
You
yeah,
have the
that,
ability to.
that person may be, based on experience, may go to the minimum, or they may go a little bit more,
Yes,
but not much, because I have to stay within the budget that you've given us for
right,
that.
and you said those examples on the record, that
Yeah.
wasn't,
Okay.
I was just blanketing the other one, that one.
Nope, they're, not all of these went up 2.5%. As you saw, the 10-10, that one didn't go up. I don't know that some of the, do you remember, Tom, if the miscellaneous payments went up? They did. Okay, I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
The state minimum wage stays the same, everything else.
The state minimum wage,
It's the same, that's the 10. All of it went up to 2.5%.
that's the only one that didn't, right? Okay, thanks. Rick, your turn.
does the hourly part-time positions that you said were under 30 hours, do they get benefits?
No.
Okay.
Except if they're a service-oriented position, the state law says that they get prorated sick leave. But that's a state requirement.
Okay. How come you're listing the miscellaneous payments? I don't see anything on here for Board of Selectmen. Right,
You're
it
not
says-
part of the pay plan because the charter identifies what your fee is.
Oh,
So the
okay.
charter says that each selectman must receive $1,000 a year. But that is not in the pay plan
Okay.
because you're considered covered by the charter's stipulation.
Okay, good.
You think it would hurt to add in the future?
I'm sorry?
Do you think it would hurt to add it in the future? I think it should be on here if you don't mind in the future.
I don't think that it should be
Okay.
because it's stipulated in the charter. You're not considered an employee. These are the
No,
pay
it says-
plans for employees.
No, it says administrator, professionals, executives, and elected officials.
Yeah, I'm employed by the town of Portland.
I know, but.
And so is the town clerk,
But the
and
Board of
so,
Assessment Appeals isn't.
Nothing, I mean, you can't change the rate's by the charter.
I don't want to change
We're
it.
not-
The reason I suggested it after Rick brought it up is I just think it's better for transparency. That's all, no other reason, just.
Yeah, I was wondering why it wasn't listed. I'm not
Yeah,
complaining
I mean,
about
well,
the money.
I
It's in
don't,
the
I'm not,
And seasonal
other than I
employees,
just.
we're not employees.
Well,
you're,
okay,
you're
so-
in
No,
the charter,
It
and I
says
have,
elected officials at the top, so I feel you should list any elected official that gets a compensation. That was my point. That was all I was going for. Now, if it didn't say elected officials at the top, to me, I read this,
Okay.
I should be able to pick it up, and it should show me what every elected official in the town of Portland receives for a stipend or whatever, and it should just be there, whether the charter or not. If it didn't say elected officials at the top, I wouldn't have a problem. That was my only point. I just think it makes more sense if it says elected officials at the top, and we're not on the list, people are gonna wonder why, in my opinion. But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm fine with just putting my 2 cents on the record. That's it. Not a big deal. I just think we should add that sentence. But if everybody else doesn't, then we don't add it.
Well, I understand your logic.
That's all.
well,
But the
I do
charter, we
wanna
have to
point
go by
out
the
in-
charter.
let me just take the time and pull what it says in here. Since you've brought it up, you should
I
look at it.
apologize if I'm making
No,
a
I
that's
deal
know,
out.
fine.
I know you're saying, but it is in the charter. I don't know.
Because someday I'm
I
gonna be
don't- I
sitting
don't-
on that side, and if I pick up this piece of paper and it says elected
No.
officials, I would assume that nobody gets anything then by reading this document tonight. Because it says elected officials. It doesn't say certain elected officials, it says elected officials. So either, that's my 2 cents, that's my
I guess
thought.
you could put excluding Board of Selectmen.
That's fine. Then
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 you
that's
got it
transparent,
covered.
and people can then ask the question, what is the selectman number? I'm fine with that too.
Well, maybe in the charter, we're not under section 302. I don't know. I couldn't answer that. As it says per section, under the elected officials, it says per section 302 of the town charter.
Maybe-
So are we under
Hold on.
302? I don't know.
But
Let's see what it says here.
regardless, I think we should have something whether
All right.
it's, we have the sentence.
Under section 302, only, let me just read it. Only the first selectman, town clerk, members of the Board of Selectmen, Board of Tax Review, and registrars of voters shall receive compensation. For all except the Board of Selectmen, compensation shall be recommended by the Board of Selectmen and approved in the annual general fund operating budget. I'm going to read that again. For all except the Board of Selectmen, compensation shall be recommended by the Board of Selectmen and approved in the annual general fund operating budget. The Board of Selectmen's compensation shall be set by charter to $1,000 each to be paid quarterly. Reimbursement of actual expenses incurred by elected officials in the performance of official duties shall be made as authorized by the Board of Selectmen and included in the annual general fund operating budget. All fees collected by elected officials shall be remitted to the general fund. It's clear that the Board of Selectmen's compensation is set by the charter, and for all except the Board of Selectmen, compensation shall be recommended by this board and approved in the annual general fund operating budget. That's why you're not listed on the pay plan. Because if you go to the other section where we're told that we must adopt the pay plan, that's what this is. It's for all others that receive compensation. Is there agreement with that, or do you still think that?
I agree,
I'm
because
wrong.
what you read, Susan, I agree with you 100%. I just feel if we could add some quotes, doesn't include the Board of Selectmen per charter or read charter, just something for, that's all I was looking for. You are 100% right with the way it's presented tonight, I agree with you. I just feel when
I
somebody picks
just
it
want to
up-
make sure you understand, though,
Yes,
that
yes.
you are not approving the Board of Selectmen's compensation by the charter. This is what you, by charter, are required to set after the budget, not your own.
Okay, well then,
$1,000.
then just for, why don't, where it says and elected officials,
But except-
excluding Board of Selectmen. Because then it finishes the statement, because right now it's open-ended, it says elected officials. Technically, every one of us is up here elected, so that statement can be deemed inaccurate. If we finish it by saying excluding Board of Selectmen members, then then I'm fine with that. That statement itself, at least people can then say, well, that's what it means, that's what it says, and it makes sense. Right now, it says elected officials. A guy like me would pick it up and say, it says elected officials. It doesn't say excluding these or those. It, to me, would mean everything. One simple little add quotes, excluding Board of Selectmen, would solve my problem.
It's your resolution. I don't
other
agree
than
with
that-
you, but I understand what you're saying.
I
but
agree.
The only,
I
the only
agree
thing
with
I
you.
think if you put excluding
Why do
us,
you want to do
it's
that?
it's gonna create more of, well, now they're doing something.
doesn't
Like,
make any
it's gonna
sense.
create a feeling of it's
Don't
even
make it stand
more
out.
kept. That's
It's
just
not
my.
appropriate.
I don't think it really matters either way. It's not, we've already spent more time than we need to. I don't care either way.
Majority rules. I'm only one, so you've given, now, it's a tie as a doubt.
Well, I like the note there that does say first section of 302, so you can refer to 302, and I think that would be clear, that would clarify it
What you,
accurately.
if you
Well said.
want to write the whole section
No,
on here someplace, you
No, I don't think
could.
that's necessary.
Lou gives up a good point. I've already said my 2 cents.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
I'm
answered
okay,
it.
I'm okay with it. I just was curious why
Yep.
Board of Selectmen weren't on there, but you answered it, so
Hey, everybody
Now I know.
knows, so we're good.
we can move on.
Okay. So what would you like to do next?
Vote on it.
Okay.
You need a motion?
Yep.
We need a motion, I guess.
So moved. The rest-
Second.
Okay. Further questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. It's always good to go back and visit the rules. I do think, Ben, I agree with you on
Yeah.
that. Because a lot of people don't read the charter every day.
No, I don't think they ever read it.
But you should, when you're
Yeah.
doing these things.
Well
And
said.
you
Well
should,
said.
and that was well done. Okay, so now we move on to another function that you have from the charter, which is, yes, we
Oh,
did,
yeah,
because
thank
Tom wasn't here, so. Do you want to go back to that, or do you want to finish 9 and 10 and then go back? Board.
Do we need time for anything else after that?
Yes,
Yeah, while we're on the roll here.
okay.
Let's keep.
Then let's go to number 9, and we'll come back to the monthly budget report, Tom. Okay, so adopt non-union, and we did that. Adopt other budgets. Now, within the charter, you're required to adopt the other budgets once the budget has been approved. So the budget's been approved, and the other budgets were not approved technically by the referendum. The transfers were approved. So if you look at the blue sheet, so animal control, if you look under transfer in from the general fund, the budget that was passed is allocating $71,424 from the general fund. But the budget for the animal control department was not approved at referendum because other revenues are from property rental, $38,608 from the city of Middletown, dog licenses, fees, $5,400, miscellaneous $500, and then the dog surcharge of $1,700. So there's revenues of $46,208 from other sources. So that's why we approved the budget tonight. And the same for the Town Aid Road, which is a grant from the state. It's not, it's only from the state of Connecticut. We received $239,438 from the state. Youth Services, you'll see at least under page 124, under the revenues, the state of Connecticut miscellaneous, $12,500. Youth Service Bureau, $18,600. DSS gives us $3,000. Program fees, that's paid for by parents, $86,000. Resource Center fees, $2,500. Contributions, approximately $1,000. And then the transfer in is $82,980. So that was approved at referendum, so that budget can be approved. Resource recovery, under income, you will see that the transfer in on page 127 is of $181,925, and charges for services for resource recovery is $162,525. So the transfer in was approved at referendum, but the whole budget will be approved by you tonight. Within the building maintenance fund, the transfer in only is $82,000, which $41,000 goes to Board of Ed, $41,000 goes to General Town. Parks and Recreation budget, the total charges for services is $169,260, and the transfer in, which was approved at referendum, is $236,832. And then the budget proceeds with the expenses on the next page. Within the capital improvement plan, the transfer in from the general fund is $279,000. State of Connecticut grants, $268,064. The transfer in from sewer, $125,000. The transfer in from water is $125,000. So the total budget for fiscal year 2020 is $797,064. And you will recall within that, $135,000 will go for technology upgrades at the Board of Education, $25,000 for the fire department. On page 139, $25,000 from the LoCIP grant for Parks and Recreation, $44,000 for the equipped police cruiser from general fund. Page 140, $38,706. Excuse me. From the building maintenance fund is LoCIP for parking lot improvements. And then you'll see a grant for $204,358 for sidewalk construction. And reconstruction non-grant, $30,000, that's from general fund, for a total of $273,064 for public works. And then on the back, the sewer department total is $125,000. Computers, $20,000, reval, $25,000, and then the water department, $125,000. And that's how you arrive at the total of $797,064. So I would entertain a motion that you are approving the animal control fund at $117,632, the town aid road fund. Excuse me, I need to take this call. Hello? Yes.
Closing the bridge. Accident on the bridge.
Bag
Thank you. So are you including the diversion?
Next page.
Okay, and then it comes down to balance.
We gotta stop these meetings.
Bad crash on the bridge. The bridge is closed.
Oh, my God.
Bad crash.
We
So,
gotta stop having meetings. Every time we have a meeting, something bad's happening.
I think it is on the Middletown side, but do not go over the bridge. If you plan to go over the bridge, you can't go over tonight. Yes. Very bad. Just have a moment of silence for our public safety personnel, as well as Middletowns and the victims. Thank you. So further, the adoption of budgets, I think I left off with Town Aid Road 239, 438, Youth Services 206, 580, Resource Recovery 344,450, Building Maintenance Fund 82,000, and the Parks and Recreation Fund of $406,092. And further resolved that the capital improvement budget for fiscal year 2019-2020 is outlined on the attached, which we just went over, in the amount of $797,064, with $279,000 being town source funded projects, $125,000 water source fund projects, and $125,000 sewer source fund projects, and $268,064 state of Connecticut funded projects, be and is hereby adopted. So I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I think I heard a second over here. Was it Ben?
Yeah.
Okay. Discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The next item that I wanted to go over is, we can actually maybe go back to the monthly budget report now. Do you want to do that?
Sure.
Okay, Tom?
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
So on page 1 of the revenues, we have our current year tax revenue and our motor vehicle supplement. That's accounts 00010 and 00013 are coming in quite strong, which is a positive thing. Educational cost sharing, account 00101. That we came in within $20,000, $20,620 of budget, which is that's good as well. The monies that we were expected to receive, we did get, except with the $20,000, which is that's good as well. Further down, conveyance tax, it's account that ends with 00312. We have hit the budget at this point. We have another month left, so that's strong. Vital statistics 00313 has come in well, and we still have another month on that as well. Account 0324 is police private duty. As you can see, that account, we had budgeted $175,000. To date, we have received about $224,000. We have about $71,000 of outstanding receivables that have been billed, and the month of June, we expect probably another $35,000 of bill, 35 to 40,000 of billings. You know, that's going over the amount that we had allotted, and there's a corresponding expense with that. So the officers work, and then we go and bill back the customers. The great majority of that is work in Middletown that our officers are doing. Doing a tremendous amount of work in Middletown, and they have a lot of projects in development and have trouble filling the jobs, so our officers are filling those jobs. If you go down further, we have structural permits at 0328. That one is below by about 222,000. We were expecting about 100. You know, we had budgeted probably an expectation of 187,000 or so from Brainerd. That money has not yet come in, as they've not moved forward on that. So, you know, that's a little slight of a gap, but some of these other positives are hopefully making up and offsetting. If you turn the page 00354, it's other revenue. We are 145,000 above expectation. The great majority of that was the premium on the bond sale, as well as the Kerma dividends. And then 00401 is the investment income. We have better rates. We have held some of the monies that we had for the capital projects a little longer, as some of the projects took a little longer to progress forward. So the monies were held, and interest was earned on those dollars. So that's some positive results in the general fund on the revenue side. When we go into the expense side, if we go to page 5, so the department is 023. Police department line item that we're talking about is 01023 14014, private duty police. As you can see, we budgeted 130,000. We've spent to date 195,000, and we're doing around about 30 to 40,000 in a month now that the weather is better. So that is where later on you will see the additional appropriation for $105,000, the 65 plus the potential estimate of 40,000. On page 7, vehicle maintenance right now it's currently in the positive, but that's one that we continue to watch as the months come through and as the equipment is utilized in the summer, and the vehicles there can be expenses there, so they'll keep watching that budget closely. 034, the town engineer, we've been talking about that all year. That budget is over budget, and we will continue to make transfers on that, and we continue to monitor that appropriately. Page 9, again, it's the snow removal. We've been talking about that the whole year since the snow took place. Page 11, we have the municipal drivers are over budget at this point, but that's kind of a related relationship with 054, which is in a good position. The municipal agent for the elderly, they've been helping, our residents need transportation to their various appointments and the various events, and the municipal agent for the elderly is helping to achieve that goal. So there are some additional amounts there spent for VIA stipends, and I'm sure it'll continue through June there. But with the kind of the related party of the 054, the senior center, I think that it'll be within the two budgets. You'll be well within budget. So I think that's the update that I have for the general fund.
Can I
Yes,
ask a question now?
sure, feel free.
On the snow removal, why so much overtime? I would have thought the road materials would have been higher because we were buying the salt. Okay. All right.
But you're right in the average that you have been for 5 years, if not longer. So you made some increases for next year's budget, which are good actually. And then I think you're gonna see a little bit of money come back, or actually on the materials line item, because we did save some there this year. So,
But isn't, on the road materials, didn't we start buying salt?
yes.
And you still came in under?
Yep.
Well, that's good.
And those sensors you're requesting may even help you more, right?
All right, it just seemed like the overtime, like we missed by a lot.
Unfortunately, it was Sunday, Monday, storm.
You're
The-
supposed to
the
follow that up
estimate-
with it, but it may not be that way every year.
The estimate of the overtime is quite low. It has not been increased over the
Well,
years.
That's what I was getting
And every-
at.
you know, every-
You should just put a higher number and be more realistic about it. If it's,
Yeah.
okay.
We did a little bit this year.
So we'll continue to do that.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go back to item 11, appointments to boards and commissions. And as I had indicated earlier, for the Housing Code Board of Appeals, I would ask that we appoint Fire Marshal Ray Sajak, Health Director Russell Melmed, and Citizen Amanda Herzog.
So moved.
Moved by Lou, seconded by Ben.
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. And I would ask for your nominations next time to fill out 2 more positions on the Housing Code Board of Appeals and 5 for the Building Code Board of Appeals.
Oh, so wait a minute. You have the 3 names that you, like Sajak, Russell, and Herzog. are they on the housing board, housing code board of appeals?
Yes,
So there's 3 there.
yes, and I think.
It only
I think-
says 3 on our,
I think what Michelle wrote was that we were going to appoint 3 tonight, because I told her I didn't have the 5, but I don't have 5 for the other. So there's actually 2 more that you need for housing.
just 2 more, not?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
You're
All right,
correct.
That's what I was
Thank you.
questioning.
And then we'll need 5, but I don't have the names for the Building Code Board of Appeals. The Housing Code is a little unique in that the ordinance, I have a copy of it if you want to take a look at it later, requires that we have the fire marshal and the health director on it.
Okay.
A little unusual. We don't usually have appeals to the Housing Code, so we'll see how that process goes.
And both of these boards, have they been non-existent in the past?
They exist,
Okay.
but we don't appoint people because we haven't had the need, and it seems a little unusual to have boards that don't meet. We haven't had a meeting of these 2 boards in a long time, right, Ben? Since you've been on?
I
Never.
can't remember.
No,
No,
since I've been on.
never.
I don't remember ever having it.
So is there more activity now that need to?
No, there's
Work.
1 person that's appealed the decision of the building official,
Okay.
so,
And in all fairness, I don't think he writes too many of these either.
no, he doesn't.
I think that's where you were going with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just trying to get some background here.
Sure. Okay, the next is authorization to use capital non-recurring funds in accordance with section 503G and 12033 of the town charter, and a public hearing and a town meeting must be held. And I'm going to ask for some assistance with this from Tom and Bob, who are here tonight. And I think I'll start by reading it so that we're familiar together. Whereas the Highway Division is in the need of a hot box for making road improvements and enhancing quality and usefulness of road materials, the cost of such equipment expected to be $17,000. Whereas Highway Decision has changed the method of treating roads to salt-based, a need exists to purchase temperature sensors for dump trucks for $3,150. Whereas Highway Vehicle Maintenance have more modern vehicles that use computerized messages to note diagnostic issues. A diagnostic machine is needed to help identify issues to make repairs to the various dump trucks. The cost $5,725. Whereas the Board of Education, high school, middle school tennis court area is in need of court crack improvements, fence improvements, other related improvements, an action track athletic surface improvement project is proposed. The cracks are substantial and result in a safety concern for the student athletes. The proposed improvements is $60,000. Whereas grounds maintenance is in need of a new enclosed 16-foot trailer to allow for proper storage and transport of materials, products, equipment, cost $9,000. Whereas Police Department, and I talked about this at our meeting last night, works diligently to monitor speed throughout the town to enhance public safety. Solar-powered radar speed control signs can be purchased to assist in making drivers aware of their speed. That estimated cost is $6,000. And whereas the town has used the GovDeals website to sell various assets that are no longer useful to the town, and this is over a series of years, and the revenues received from the sales are recorded in the town's Fund Number 8. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Selectmen approves supplemental appropriation from capital non-recurring fund balance in the amount of $100,875 and authorizes the funds to the following accounts. Highway Division Vehicle Maintenance, the hot box, $17,000. The road sensors, $3,150. The diagnostic machine, $5,725. the tennis court improvements at the high school, middle school of $60,000, the grounds maintenance trailer for $9,000, and the police department's solar powered radar speed signs of $6,000. I want to point out that these dollars are in the fund.
That was
But-
gonna be my question.
They're in the fund, and they're in the fund balance. And what we're asking for, because the charter requires us to do so, that if you allocate the funds that are already present, you have to identify how they'll be used, and before you can use them, you have to have a public hearing, and after the public hearing, you have to have a town meeting. So, in other words, the plan that we looked at for next year's general fund monies, there's in Fund 8, which is it is the cap, excuse me, Tom, what's the title of Fund 8?
See, our fund,
Capital non-recurring fund. So those dollars are there. You can't use them unless we ask for this allocation tonight. So I'll open it up for discussion.
So,
Just,
Louis first.
I would just like to maybe edit the tennis court improvements to include track as well, because it's.
I
the-
don't think it will allow for that.
no, it's just
No?
the tennis courts.
That's the name of the, I think, I wondered about that too, Lou.
Okay.
But what it says is, they call it an action track athletic surface. It's not the track, but I guess
Yeah.
that's what it's
Oh,
called.
tennis court improvements and track surface improvements, because
No, it's
No?
strictly the
This is
tennis
just the,
That 60's just for the tennis court?
Yes.
Yeah.
courts.
Courts.
How's the track right now?
related improvements in here.
Let's finish
What?
with the
Okay.
tennis, if you would,
Yeah,
Ben, and then we'll
Let me
get.
just go back to that statement on the front page. It says, whereas the Board of Education high school, middle school tennis court area is needed for court track improvement, fencing improvement, and other related improvements, an action track athletic surface improvement project is proposed.
That's
It's
confusing.
just the
Yeah,
way
what,
they
what does that mean?
I guess there must be the name of
Are we gonna just do the tennis courts? Or are we doing the tennis courts and the track?
Why is
No,
it
it's
called,
strictly
let me
for-
ask one question of Tom. Is that the name of the kind of material that it is? Is it called action track athletic surface?
Yeah,
Tom?
the name says the action track athletic surfacing proposes the firm to install.
Okay,
track walk, repair.
So we're putting the track the track surfacing on the tennis courts.
No, that's the name of the company.
Okay, all right.
That's
Is
the name
it
of- that's the name of the
capitalized, Tom?
So,
Is that the name of the company?
An action track.
What's the product called, Tom?
Action track athletic surfacing.
Okay, I'm clear.
I think we should capitalize action. Track.
You can get rid of it, just put tennis courts in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, $60,000 seems like a lot of money to fill cracks. You could,
resurfacing the entire.
You're gonna
court
resur-
As well after crack filling.
yeah, this would
Oh.
be,
okay.
Up
I
to
would
the asphalt,
assume
and
that
then
this-
Courts of
cover.
three coats of surface, base coat and two finish coats.
So do
so they
you,
would, oh, I'm sorry.
are you pulling up the asphalt, or the existing asphalt's gonna stay there? You're gonna fill the cracks and then put this material over? And how,
There's some binding surface
Yeah.
material that's used for the large cracks, which is almost like a reinforced.
Would you mind coming to the microphone, please, Bob? Appreciate it.
Not really my project, but I'll speak on it because I've studied it with them.
okay. How many courts are up there? 3?
Six.
6? Okay.
So I was asked to go up with Carl to look at the surfaces up there and give him some ideas or what I thought about some of the work that could be done. There are some major cracks in some of those courts that really shouldn't be played on, as far as I'm concerned. Big enough to take a foot. So we found Craftco or some companies that do this work. That is the actual surface that's going to be applied after the cracks are filled. So basically the color that you see up there is a surface. It's a thick product. It's almost like, an epoxy floor, would you say, but it's an athletic surface. non-slip type of surface. So they'll go in, make the improvements to the cracks that are there. They use almost like a filter fiber paper, which is very strong, and they bed that into the surface that exists, and then they cover it. There's a base coat, and then colors, obviously green, or I'm not sure what color is up there. And then they'll apply 2 coats over that. So it's a whole process. It's the entire court area. We, in turn, are going to do some work ourselves with some of the cracks that are, the highway is going to assist grounds to better secure the cracks that are in the interior fencing, which separates the courts. There's 2 of them that run perpendicular to the square. We're going to go in and do some cutting there. We're going to fill those areas with filter paper, and we're going to put some stone inside those so that they drain and they stay much more viable over time. So really, this is a complete resurface and repair of the cracks that are on the courts, and then we're going to do some other work ourselves to better that area.
And this is consistent with what's been discussed. I can remember I was talking for a number of years now in long-range capital improvements about this particular. Finally came to no choice anymore, I don't think.
Does this
Well, I also think
product have a
timing.
proven track record?
Yeah, it's
Record
it's
of
very
the-
similar, if not the same, as the products that are used when they first install the courts. This is just a resurfacing. So, you talk about the track, same type of thing, resurfacing the running track with the same product that they would use. Products are getting better over time. This is certainly a proven product that has been used for years.
Is
And
there
I
a
think-
concern that because you're going over the existing asphalt, that it still could move? Like when you do an overlay of a parking lot, and you
That's
don't
correct.
grind up the base layer, a lot of times the cracks show up again in a few years.
Right, so on an engineering aspect of that, that's why they use this filter paper over the crack. The crack stays underneath, but they cover it with an expandable fiber mesh, that's a better word, which allows that surface to still move under that, but it stays covered. Now, eventually, those cracks will probably show again years down the road, and then that's when you probably start looking at resurfacing at that time. But this is probably the most cost-efficient way to make those safety repairs to get some longevity on those courts. There's nothing really been done for some time. And courts will settle. This is your first opportunity to see how the courts settled since they were originally put there. Now we need to fill those areas.
Jim had some questions.
No, I was going to say I know that when we looked at the track, right, we know that we've had some cracking issues on the track, especially with some of the settling that's occurred over time. And when that project gets done, it's going to, that's gotten to the point where we're going to have to address the base as well. I think that the goal with getting this resurfacing done in this way is actually to extend the life of the base and prevent it from deteriorating to the point where the track is deteriorating. So it's kind of, to me, it's a timely project. I know that when we were looking at this even 2 years ago, you could see the evidence that we were getting to the point this was going to have to get done. So,
I'm just questioning, want to make sure it's going to hold up for a number of years, and the cracks aren't going to be back in 2 years. That's
Not from the literature and the information that we got from the contractor. We'll get some longevity out of this, but we're very close to the point where we probably would have to start thinking about resurfacing if we went a few more years and let those cracks, basically. Because what's going to happen is,
getting worse.
well, they're going to start to undermine, and right now you don't have that, so we want to secure that first. Because once you do that, you're done. You're resurfacing.
Any type of warranty with this product?
I believe so. I can't quote on that, but I'd have to look into that. I didn't get as deep. I just went up to kind of consult.
Yep.
I'm not sure if it has it in yours, Tom, but
And this is all 6 courts? I can remember.
That's what he said.
yeah, it's the whole.
We
It
discussed
is.
working on
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, oh, yeah. No, it's been a long time.
It's a big area.
I'm good.
Lou, did you have any comments
No,
on
I'm
that?
good, I understand it now.
Yeah, me too.
In terms of the resolution, do you want to capitalize action track athletic surface? All caps to indicate that that's a product?
yeah, that sounds like a good change.
Yeah, because that was confusing.
Yes, we'll capitalize it. An action track athletic surface, capital I, capital P, improvement project, I think is a little clearer.
You can, if you'd like, Susan,
Yeah.
you could change it to an armor tennis court crack repair system.
Armor?
Armor, ARMOR, tennis court crack repair system.
Okay,
Okay,
Okay.
I think that's better, Tom.
Makes it clearer.
And we'll strike Action Track Athletic Surface Improvement Project. So instead, it'll read, an armor tennis court repair system is proposed. I think that's good.
And I don't think there's a warranty on the work. I don't think there would be. I think it's more you're trying to restore and make it where the cracks don't continue. Because if they continue,
I
you
would-
wouldn't be doing
I
it.
would hope there's, for example, if they put it in wrong, like I've seen spray foam installed incorrectly. In,
Yeah, I'm saying they're not going to tell you if it continues to crack outside.
no, and that's not what I meant. If their product peels up in 30 days, I'm going to be the first guy yelling. That's kind of where I was going with it. Other than that, not the cracks. I get that game. I had a question on the trailer.
Sure, go ahead.
Why did it go up 1,000? On page 139 of,
Much better estimates than probably a year within the estimate that was used for the capital budget.
the estimate was put into 2020, so I assumed it was
Yeah.
put up there.
Steel, aluminum.
Who's using it? What do
I'm
we
going
need?
to ask again that you stay at the podium, because otherwise our listeners can't hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, so Ben, it's a much better estimate for what needs to be done, and you remember why we asked for this in capital in the beginning, right? Well, since then, and I made a change, and Tom's been pounding the numbers to try to get these to work for all of us and to get some good out of what money we have with some equipment that we really need. We have done a large amount of repairs to that box truck since we sat here to discuss the budget. And it's continually getting worse, and we had actually a small fire and some electrical damage to it. So my concern and the reason I put this in here as an opportunity is because I truly think that I'm going to be sitting in someone's office trying to figure out how I'm going to put all my equipment to paint my ball fields into something when we lose that box truck. Because I think it's inevitable.
This essentially is going to be the replacement of
It
the
is.
tractor?
It is.
Then I'm okay with it.
We are going to utilize this trailer locked and closed to be able to transport for all the ball field stuff that Mike basically does right now.
If it's the
Much more
eventual
useful.
replacement for that box truck.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
Yep.
Because to me, it makes sense. You already have
Yeah.
the plow vehicles that can tow this.
Yeah.
You don't need it. I'm okay.
Utility vehicles can tow it.
Sold. I just wanted to make sure it was needed. Thank you.
Other questions?
I just have a comment. I guess the only thing I'd say is, boy, I really hope that those solar power radars, speed signs show positive improvements, but we'll see.
How
Hopefully the
many?
data we'll see
Two.
afterward will show
Those
that
are
they
two.
work.
There are two.
Yeah, that's two signs, and it was a good opportunity that Susan brought forward for us to take a look at that, especially at the cost. There's some opportunities out there to save a little bit of money. And yeah, all we can do is try. I think that's going to be a good visual in some of the areas. Like I said last night, we need to try to make sure we protect them, though, because it's not that $30 speed sign. That's for sure. So we'll do what we can to try to do that as well.
In looking at the data and listening to the speeds that occur on our roads, I feel we have to try to do some, take some action. We can't do nothing, because what we're doing in terms of enforcement is great, but it's not all the time, and we're really trying to make some improvements. We looked at stop signs, we looked at line painting, we looked at these three-dimensional crosswalks. All of those were scrapped because we thought they would not be necessarily a safe endeavor. And we've had some positives from our citizens when they see how their speed is on the trailer.
Mhm.
A trailer is much more expensive than these.
Is the trailer what you have up on Middle Haddam Road now?
Yes,
We own that,
yes.
so that will remain as
Hmm.
a tool.
We will see if we can make these mobile as well. I'm not sure, but they're clamp on, so we may be able to look in the future to be able to add poles in certain areas and move them. Maybe some poles that we currently have signs on now that we can just kind of bring the sign. They're solar powered, so
How big is this?
they're pretty big, probably the size of this. I think the 15-inch is what we recommended for a rural town, so we don't light up a neighborhood. They'll be near residential homes, but they're LED and they'll flash messages of your current speed. And then I think this one actually thanks you for being when it doesn't flash at you.
Kitch is on the committee with us, and
Yeah.
she has a quick question on this.
Bob, are these the signs that would be similar to the ones in Hampton on Ridge Road? Do you know, have you seen those?
No, so
They flash,
they do. They actually register your speed,
they register speed.
and they will flash, I believe, red when you're over speed.
Solid red if
Yeah.
you drove. Okay.
And I think these, and I'm studying, this has only been 3 days since we saw, or 4 days since we saw this particular model. I think it says when you're flashed over to slow down. And then I believe the ones that, when you're under the speed, some of them say thank you.
A smile? Smile.
I never saw the smile ones.
I think I've seen smile face ones. But as long as they have the work, can I ask another question?
Yes.
The tennis courts.
Yes.
Resurfacing or repair. So that's gotta go to the town meeting. So I think when that appears on the town meeting, I think it's really important that it be clear that it's all 8 courts. 8 courts?
Six.
Six, okay, so that number doesn't sound astronomical. And the fact that we'll get some more years of usage on it. Otherwise, I'm afraid people look at that number.
And I think under paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, we should say, whereas the Board of Education, high school, middle school, 6 tennis courts?
Put a parentheses.
Just six
In
courts.
parentheses?
6 courts.
6 courts.
Bob, how long are those courts?
No, it's gotta say tennis
installed?
courts.
You could actually just say a tennis court area. Just put,
School,
you know,
schools.
6 courts.
Okay.
So
long time.
early 2000s.
Six tennis court.
Yeah, parentheses.
Around 2000.
They were done with the school renovation, right?
I was at like 04 or something.
All the fields, the track, the tennis courts. Long time.
But it is a long time.
So that shows we have a decent base under there, and now
You have
is
an
the time to
excellent
save it.
base because
Yeah.
there's been no maintenance.
Right. Now's the time.
Really,
It's a
no
save-
surface-
15 years.
It's been free for this.
Not that I know of. There's been no surface maintenance done, so we're in pretty good
I
shape.
just question that could you, for $60,000, could you grind up all the asphalt and resurface things? I
Nope.
mean, I've seen like when over at Portland Plaza and stuff where they go and
250 to 300,000.
really
Yeah.
6 tennis courts.
Yeah. Milling and repaving and the paving material that they have to use for tennis courts
Okay,
and the
it's
thickness that they
different,
use
yeah.
for tennis courts and the aggregate that they use for tennis courts, which is much smoother. It's a different class. It's expensive.
Okay.
Plus you got to reset all the fences again too. Big money. It's all those little things that add up.
I have one other question, because I know you're going to go into executive, and I'd like to be able to go home at that point. But I don't know if you have to be in on this one, but Susan probably still wants you standing there. So, when our police personnel work private duty jobs for other communities, I don't know, and I should know the answer to this. Our private duty jobs worked into pension pay? No, okay. So when we get reimbursed from other communities, it's just for straight pay. Okay.
Well, it's time and a half, or whatever the
Yeah,
fee
that's
is,
right.
whatever their
Whatever
fee
it
is. I don't,
It's not part of pension.
it's not time and a half, it's whatever their fee is. Their rate, I
And-
should say. It's a rate we charge, and then we pay the employee based on his
Their rate.
hourly rate.
Right.
Yeah.
I
But
went-
it's not part of
Maybe a little
pension.
Something on it,
For the town's,
yeah,
the vehicle and the wear and tear on the vehicle, as well as the administrative costs and other residual expenses. Yes,
I asked that years back.
okay.
yes. Private duty is not cheap.
So Susan, if, on a private, to that question, if they're on private duty and they've already worked their 40 hours in Portland, and now, are they getting,
It's a rate, right, Tom?
so does Middletown pay the overtime rate if the policeman's on overtime because he already worked his 40 hours?
It's flat, flat fee that's established for private duty work is in excess of highest overtime rate.
Or maybe are they not subject to overtime because they're working for a different
No, they
municipality?
get the overtime.
They get overtime.
Yes. And
But the fee for the other town, or for the private contractor in our town, is the flat fee. So, the town's delta for expenditures may vary depending on the cost of that individual based on his rate of pay.
Well,
Does that make sense?
yeah, what I'm getting at is I would hate to be paying the officer overtime
You're not
from
paying it.
Portland and then not collecting the overtime rate or
No, you're
you're making
okay,
making more.
you
The way the rate is determined.
then I'm happy.
right, but
That's a good question.
what you make varies based on the officer. So if
Right,
you have
I get that.
if you have a lieutenant working versus
Yeah.
a regular officer, but obviously there's averages in we're making.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I did go through that one year. I expected you to get on that one.
Okay,
Businessmen think alike.
So is overtime here, part of pension, or is just straight
If-
pension?
Well, it's a little off topic, but I'll allow it. If someone is working their regularly scheduled work week,
Uh-huh.
but they are required, they are told you are going to work overtime for town duties, that is part of their pensionable matter,
So that becomes part of base pay, is that right?
yes.
Okay, and.
But not private, I can't answer two people at once, so forgive me. I want to make sure I get it right, so let me just verify with Tom. Am I right, Tom?
Police
For police only.
And that's because it's public safety?
It's because it's part of their contract.
Oh, okay, that's negotiated.
Right. Was there another question that I?
I have another question about, pay plan. As pay plan for employees, as it could potentially, relate to a member of the board of selectmen. Working, that person then was part of the pay plan, or would that be stipend or seasonal, that pay?
I was confused. Can you, did you
I
get
don't
that?
understand the question.
I didn't, say that one more time slowly.
If someone sits on the board of selectmen and they work for the town in any capacity.
You can't.
Is that capacity seasonal, stipended, or
I
part of the pay plan?
I don't know of anyone on the pay plan that sits on this board.
Okay, so who sets stipend or seasonal?
This board, because they passed the pay plan.
With the exception of the Board of Selectmen stipends, which are by charter.
Right. We don't set that dollar amount. The charter sets, is that your
So if it's
question?
not for the board of selectmen stipend, if it's stipend for some other, job performed, who sets that pay? I don't think it is.
Could you give an example?
If someone, let me just speak theoretically. If someone is a vendor for the town, not an employee,
A vendor.
that may be something different. A vendor
So if you explain.
or a contractor, but not an employee. The pay plan is for people who are employed.
Yeah, okay,
I think if I'm,
So
And this is only general government, it's not Board of Ed. Board of Ed pays their staff within their own parameters.
Okay, but we don't have a bifurcated budget. Just wanted clarification.
But they manage their dollars once the determination is made.
But this body says.
No, the town vote sets the budget. The town vote on May 29th determined the general fund
The
budget.
acceptance of the budget as presented by the body.
I don't understand.
So
The
this
body
comes
presented
up-
a budget,
Right,
went to town meeting,
right, and it's accepted
no
by-
changes at the town meeting, went to first referendum, was rejected, came back to this board per charter, was amended, went back to the voters on May 29 and was approved by the voters.
Okay. Just wanted to figure out how it all works.
And then within the charter, there's duties, as I explained. I don't think you had arrived, but I explained some of the things within tonight's agenda that are associated with requirements post passing of the budget,
Yeah, I came.
of which the pay plan is one,
Yep.
the other, some of the other items are others.
Thank you.
All right, so back to the yellow form. No, 1 minute. Back to this yellow form. Yes.
I don't believe the lady identified herself.
So I'm Titch Fraser, 8435 Main Street.
Yeah, it's really public comment because that was earlier in the night.
I was up there, I couldn't join.
Okay. So back to this resolution. I'm asking that we send this to a public hearing. Now, next in your packet, this public hearing notification is recommending that Wednesday, June 19, at 7 o'clock in this room, that we have the public hearing on this matter. So I would ask that the board send this to a public hearing.
Yeah, I'll make that motion. if you'd like.
Second.
Motion made by Jim, seconded by Ben. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. I would also ask,
Yes,
yes,
in this room.
and what I'm also asking you to do, because I would like to get this notification in the newspapers, that you set the special town meeting for this matter as well, to be Wednesday, June 26, 2019, at 7 o'clock.
I'll make that motion as well.
Is there a second?
You want them, I'll second it. Do you want them at the same exact time, or do you want to put them 15 minutes apart?
I don't do that because we have two items on the agenda. So if you come at 7, agenda item 1 will be the supplemental appropriation of the fund balance.
Okay,
The second will be the police private duty matter.
perfect, fine.
And
Just
that
a
was
quick-
So this is at 7 a.m.?
Yes.
PM?
on June 26th.
Okay.
See, so you'll have the public hearing on June 19 for both items, for both what we just talked about and the police private duty. And then you'll have, which you already passed. And then you'll have the special town meeting with the two topics as well. Rick?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lou?
I just had a question. I just want to poll the Board of Selectmen. Do we have a quorum for that evening? I cannot be there
For the town meeting?
for the town meeting.
I don't need a quorum.
You don't need a quorum?
Nope.
Okay.
I need others, electors, to be here.
Need voters.
Yeah.
Right.
It's technically not a board of selectmen. Once you send this to the town meeting, they determine it. So
It's up to the.
I hope others can be there, though, as Lou asked.
I can be here. That should be fine with me.
So the motion was made and seconded for the special town meeting, correct?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. I will point out, Laura, that there's a couple of mistakes on the supplemental appropriation to the general fund of $105,000, I believe it is. and an increase in estimated revenue to account number. Do you see that?
At the very bottom,
Yes.
okay.
So supplement appropriation of $105,000 to the general fund, account number 010230001414, and an increase in estimated revenue to account number 01 and then ending in 324, police private duty, in the amount of $105,000. That's just a typo. And the same on the public hearing notice as well.
Typos, we don't need as amended, right, Susan?
I'll make sure that Michelle redoes these, but do you see what I mean? Do you have the public? Maybe, okay, I'll give it to you. Okay, just, okay. Okay, so we took care of 12, and actually, because they were related, number 14, which has to do with the supplemental appropriation for the police private duty. Both of those are going to public hearing, followed by that town meeting. Okay. So then we'll go to number 13, which is something else that Bob will assist us with, which is a company number 2 roof. And this we're bringing to you because we were, as I said earlier tonight, we reviewed the need for this. The bond authorization allowed us to have the money to repair the roof. Bob engaged through a competitive arrangement, an architect, and then put out a contract that was bid on, and the successful bidder, and low bidder, I should say, is Imperial Company Restoration Contractor from Cromwell. Bob, do you want to highlight this for us?
So it's part of that bond package. The buildings portion of it allowed in the range of, I think, $500,000. These are one of the projects that was identified to move forward, to explore, to see what we can get done. And this is the result of a lot of work to try to get to this stage. The roof is in dire need to be replaced. It has millions of dollars of apparatus under it, and has been leaking considerably for probably 4 or 5 years, maybe longer. So we're overdue. It is a very different engineered structure, I could say, which has created many challenges over many years, and that's some of the reasons why we're here today. So the engineering that's being put into this roof now is going to give us some benefits for some ventilation, is a good term, that doesn't exist, which is causing icing and some of the leaking issues that we have, and hopefully we'll resolve all those problems and we'll have a good long-term structure on this facility. It's a big job. That's a big roof.
Are you replacing the roof decking as well here?
You are, not to get too specific because I'll confuse you, but what we are doing is we are stripping the existing shingles. We are repairing where necessary the decking, and then we're doing what they're called a decking system over it, which leaves a 2.5-inch gap, an air gap between the existing roof and the new roof. And that's the ventilation that facility has been lacking since it's been built. So it's a system where they put panels, but they're raised. And there's an air system underneath it, and which will create the air, which your homes have, which stop that freezing and melting and freezing because of the heat in the facility is basically hitting the ceiling.
How many squares is the roof?
Oh, a lot. And it's not squares. Well, the squares on top of the panels, but it's an awful lot. I can give you the whole detail on it. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I'm sorry, I don't have that. It's a lot.
Which? Oh, this is company 2.
Company 2. Probably the biggest roof other than the high school we have in town. It's a big roof. It is. Yeah, so I have those details for you, Rick. I could show you that whole schematic plan and layout and breakdown of how that was. So this is the base price, and you'll see unit prices are within reason for all vendors who quoted. So basically, that's what you have there.
On that shoreline bid, what was that 54,000, that alternative one?
It was an alternative product that was not recommended. Cheaper grade.
So this is a shingle.
Oh, that would have been a savings of the 54,000?
That would have been a savings, but also a reduction in warranty and the product that was originally spent. Yeah.
It's not spelled out, so I want.
Right.
But these bids, I like, they're pretty close. That's always good.
They were very close.
Yes.
We were very surprised. We were very worried we weren't getting any because it's a very difficult job. But we were happy to see that everybody that participated in the process.
And you had the one bidder just in case I get the job.
Yeah, you like that one? That's
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Yes, he wasn't. He's pretty busy, so he
So trying to move forward with those projects that you've already really committed to, trying to get them done and off the list properly and
It's very much needed. This
moving
roof
forward.
needs-
And I like the fact that you put the time in to not just slap another roof over it and end up with the same problem. So thank you.
Bob has spent a lot of time on this, and
My problems before, my problems now.
right. So we need a motion to approve the agreement with Imperial Company Restoration Contractor Incorporated.
So
I'll make it.
Oh,
Made by Ben, seconded by Ralph. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Thank you, Bob and Tom. Okay, just bear with me for a minute here. We're going to go to item number 15, which is refunds of excess payments. Jim?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we refund the amount of $2,432.97 to Brittany Galletti.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
And I'll make a motion that we refund the amount of $129.39 to Honda Lease Trust.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We'll move on to item what is now 16, and I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session, the purpose of which is strategy on collective bargaining. And Joe McQuaid, our labor attorney from Canaan, Escalera, and McHale will join us. He's invited to assist. And is there a motion to go into executive session?
I was just going to say before we, for the record, I'm going to
Yeah, Jim.
recuse myself. I'm stepping out of the executive session as,
You don't have to say anything else.
okay.
Thank you, because that gets.